Level 138 is on.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Guys. We've got a great show for you tonight. First off, the chat is open. Hello, everybody. Hello, Uncommon Soul. Hello, Brenda. Who else was in there? I saw somebody else in there. Hello, everyone. We are live and going. We also have the toll-free phone up, and thanks to Yerg's Radio, you can call us at 1-888-88-YERGZ on your phone pad. That's 1-888-88-YERGZ on your phone pad. All right. Well, so tonight we have a couple special guests. My first one's already hiding backstage. Sophia is also known as the Ghost Girl. She has quite a few stories to tell us. So I'm not going to say a lot of stupid things. I'm just going to bring her out and we're going to go. Hey,
thank you so much for having me on tonight.
Hey, it's glad you're here. The chat is open, and so if anybody has a question, they'll probably ask a question in the chat. And we also have the toll-free line if anybody wants to call in too. So Sophia, tell us about yourself. You're known as the Ghost Girl.
Actually the ghost host.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I just don't want to be mistaken. There probably is a ghost girl somewhere. I'm sure. I don't want to get sued. Yeah, my name is Sophia Temperilli. I am the ghost host on liveparanormal.com. I am 25 years old and I've been in the paranormal for, I think it's 17 years. Yeah, 17 years and 17 years in June. And then I will be celebrating 13 years on air as the ghost host in June. I got that mixed up. May. This is May. See, I've been doing this so long, I don't even know. But so I just celebrate 17 years in the paranormal.
Wow. Yeah, I read somewhere that growing up you lived in a haunted house with a poltergeist. Is that right?
Yes, I did. I don't know if he was a poltergeist or not. He was definitely creepy, definitely a stalker, and he definitely left me with PTSD, so he was super fun. Yeah, I mean, I started in the paranormal when I was 8, and I think I had experiences from before I can remember. The house I lived in that was haunted, I basically, came home from the hospital and went and lived in that house. And we didn't know it was haunted until I was about 9 years old. I had already been in the paranormal at the time. But I think, looking back, we had experiences we just didn't know were experiences at the time because no one thinks that their house is haunted. Like, that's not your first reaction when something happens is, oh, it's haunted. Maybe it's like a family member just visiting you like on a one-off or it's something explainable. But looking back, there was definitely stuff that, showed us that the house was haunted before we realized. And then when I was about 9, the activity just really amplified and I felt like I was being watched constantly, and the ghost was pretty solely focused on women, so this was something my dad wasn't experiencing. My mom was experiencing, but she thought it was something that maybe was just kind of in her mind based on what I was saying, because he would watch me when I slept, and so she would also feel like she was being watched when she was asleep, but she thought that was kind of maybe like, oh, this is because Sophia's telling me this. And we had psychics come in and, they confirmed that the ghost was in all of these places, basically watching all of any woman that came in the house.
Wow. Was there, sometimes you hear about attachments. Was he attached to something or just that was where he liked to hang out?
We really don't know. So the thing about the house is it really had a large period of time in which there wasn't records. So my dad was adopted and his father was a paranoid schizophrenic. Now, he was not the ghost haunting the home, but at the age of 8, my dad had to move out for safety reasons, and my grandfather became a ward of the county. At that time, LA County did not take good care of their wards. So people were breaking into into the house. People were sleeping there. Really anything at any point in time was going on there. My grandfather was too mentally ill to defend himself or keep people out. So there's really a number of years in which people could have gone in and out of the home, done anything, and there would be no record of that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, anything could happen. And any kind of ritual, seance, whatever could happen. Ooh,
yeah. My parents did find a Ouija board when they moved in. They still have it. So I don't think it was attached to the Ouija board. My parents, I thought it was a Halloween decoration when I was younger. My parents were like, no, we found it in the house. So it's like, cool. That's really cool.
yeah. Yeah. And we've learned, well, I've learned that those are things you don't play with. They're not toys. So,
yeah. So it's a Halloween decoration, all year round decoration at this point, but it definitely does not have an attachment. But it shows signs of use and wear and tear. So people were definitely using it during the time that my grandfather was living in that home.
Wow. Now, you say aside from being watched, did anything else happen? Chairs go across the room, doors slam?
Yeah, we had a lot of stuff. So like I said, prior to us realizing the house was haunted, my grandfather, who was a ward of the county, he actually, while he was mentally stable, he actually used to guard the Pope in Vatican City, Rome. He was basically the equivalent to the Secret Service for the Pope. So he was very religious, very Catholic. And I think the ghost preyed on that. So I think that probably aided along in his mental illness. So after my parents inherited the home and they moved in, they had it blessed by a priest. And I think they said that the like chain that you lock the door with would like swing when that was going on. And they just thought it was odd, but no one really thought more about that. And I think I saw stuff when I was younger, but I can't really say what because I was so young. Then after that, one year my grandmother was at the Knights of Columbus after my grandfather died. My other grandfather, not the one that lived in the home. And she was getting out for the first time, dancing, hanging out with people. And that was on New Year's Eve. Now, I wasn't at the home at the time. It was just my parents. I was off with my aunt. And my mom had a piece of metal thrown at her back from 6 feet away off of a ledge in the kitchen. And so my parents thought, oh, well, that's just my grandpa telling her, don't encourage grandma to go hang out with like other guys. But we realized later on that's not what was happening. It was the ghost trying to get my parents' attention. My dad actually saw it fly off the shelf and hit my mom square in the back. And they tried to recreate it and they couldn't. My dad's an 80s metal drummer, and so he'd play the drums really loud. And one time my parents were there, the guy my dad was playing guitar with, and my uncle, my mom's friend. And while my dad's playing this very loud music, you heard a huge boom on the side of the house. And there was no way that that could have been created by anything outside. And also the pets in my home would see the ghost and react to it. I had a pug, and where I would see the ghost, she would stand in the hallway and violently bark. And then in my bedroom, I had diamond doves, and every time the ghost would enter my room, they would bounce off the cage in fear.
Oh, wow. Yeah, animals are very perceptive. Now, growing up like that, do you feel like you've gained a desensitization to them, or sensitization, either one, to them to where you can detect them around? Or
yeah, I mean, I think I've always had that. I wouldn't say I'm psychic or a medium. I would say I'm more like a sensitive. I'm like those commercials where the guy's like, oh, can you fix my cavity? And he's like, no, I'm a dental monitor, not a dentist. So I can tell you something's there, but I cannot help you beyond that. And so, yeah, I mean, I can definitely tell when something's there. You have kind of that, I think everyone really has it, but that like natural instinct to know when someone's standing behind you or watching you, you know, you can just kind of feel it. So I think just really kind of the normal human instincts we have is kind of what happened and led me down realizing the house was haunted. I could actually see the ghost, but yeah, that was kind of
even at a young age you could see him.
Yeah, I saw him when I was 9 was the first time. I was just hanging out in my parents' bedroom, and I just it started where, like I said, it felt like eyes were covering the walls and the ceiling, and I felt like I was being watched everywhere. And then one day I went in there and I saw a man standing in my mom's closet. Now, I knew that there was no man in her closet. And I just knew it was a ghost. Like I said, I had been in the paranormal a year at this point. So I went up to my mom and I said, "There's a man in your closet." And she didn't know what to think. She's never been the type of person to tell me I'm wrong. Like, you don't know what you saw. My dad, on the other hand, did not believe me. He wrote a book for a psychic, but he definitely did not believe me. He was like, "Oh, is it any coincidence I wrote a book for a psychic and now this is happening?" And my mom just, didn't say anything. She didn't tell me I was wrong. She just didn't know what to say until one day she was putting on her makeup in her vanity and she heard 3 knocks from the inside of her closet door. And so she ran, grabbed a recorder, and she caught an EVP, which is, it was a Class A EVP, like truly, genuinely so clear. It sounds like a normal person talking, and no one was talking.
Wow. Do you remember what it said by any chance?
Yeah. So in my mother's vanity, she had this light for years that she didn't know how to mount. So it was sitting on this like kind of ottoman in her vanity. And my mom and my cousin Cassie were talking, and the ghost literally said in a whisper, "I'll help you put these lights up," which sounds super helpful, but he was totally creepy. And yeah, I mean, that's really when the activity just full steam ahead progressed, is when that happened. We caught more EVPs. I remember there was one, my mom was home alone. I was at school. My dad was at work or something. And she was doing dishes, she said, and she heard Lucy, my pug, barking into the hallway. And she said, "I knew that the ghost was there." So she grabbed the recorder, because my mom is one of those people like in horror movies that will go into a basement and say hello. And so she grabbed the recorder, went in there, and she said, like, "Can you tell me your name or something?" And you can hear her voice shaking, like out of fear, because this was just really not good, what we were going through. And you had a ghost saying, "Who are you?" And this was a woman's voice, not a man. So we don't know who that was at all.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you could have multiple entities there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was making me think. I did this presentation in psychology class. We were doing, it was the sociology portion. We were doing groups, and I did the paranormal. So I put EVPs in it, and I played that recording in class, and it made a girl actually scream and jump out of her chair.
Shame on you.
It was funny. Hey,
I was going to say that you would like to have recorded too. So.
At least my trauma can bring me joy at some point.
Well, you've got to, yeah. Like you, I grew up in a haunted house. Mine was a bit different. Mm-hmm. My family was very religious, and everything was a demon. So if something happened, everything was a demon. That's a demon. That's a demon. Oh, good Lord. So I have a different view on them because of growing up, obviously. But yeah, and it does traumatize you. It makes you question everything, So because if you talk about it, sometimes people are like, "You're weird." And if you don't talk about it, you're internalizing it and, bottling it up. That's not good either. So.
Well, for me, because I was in the paranormal, once my dad had confirmation that there was in fact a ghost, I had the great support system of my parents.
Good.
But, you're supposed to feel safe in your home. And when you're 9, being followed everywhere, I couldn't watch YouTube. I couldn't play video games in my room. I couldn't change. I couldn't do anything without this grown man watching me. It makes you feel so unsteady every day. And it's hard, because if this was real, if this was a real person doing this, not a ghost, you could get a restraining order, or you could, throw them out of your house. But when they're a ghost, you're helpless. You're really at the mercy of this spirit. And when you're dealing with it and you really feel so trapped, it just leaves you with certain scars that really don't ever go away. And, it's not something you could just go up to your local therapist and talk about, because some people might think it's schizophrenia or something like that, but it's real and it really happened, and having to deal with it. And when I was younger, it was really hard to talk about, because having that attention on you when you're so young from a grown man is hard, whether it's a ghost or it's a real person. But as I'm older, I just think that there is just this aspect of the paranormal that isn't talked about, which is really how it affects you and how it can affect your mental health, because it can leave you with PTSD or trauma the way that this would if it was a regular person. And so it's just become easier through the years to talk about, because I know that there's other people out there also dealing with the after effects of a home haunting.
Oh, absolutely. So did you all end up moving, I assume?
Yes, thank God. I'm very happy.
Yeah, well, yeah, we did too. And just out of curiosity, did you happen to notice in the past that the house is sold often, or?
No, I don't. I mean, it was really hard even driving by it for a while afterwards. Honestly, where I used to live, there was a lot of gay couples. So if like two men had gotten the house, I really don't think anyone would have noticed it was haunted, because it was so focused on women.
Gotcha. Yeah, I noticed on ours, of course, we moved to another state, but that was just to be with family. But I noticed going back looking at it as I got older, the house never stayed occupied by the same family for more than 4 or 5 years. And then it was sold again. So coincidence? I don't know. I mean, it could just be a coincidence. But yeah. So you started doing your own radio show at 8. And how was that? I can't imagine right now. I'm 55 and struggling to figure out what to do. How in the heck did you manage that at 8? You must be a genius.
So I started at 12. It's okay. I started in the paranormal at 8 and 12. I understand
Gotcha.
the mix up. But yeah, so I started at 12. So actually we moved out when I was 11, and really just being so young and going through this. I mean, I get it. There's no kids in the paranormal. I completely understand why, but especially back in the day, when paranormal wasn't as big as it is now, there was no younger people in the field. And I just was so curious, there has to be other people out there that are young and have had these experiences. When you're young, you really just want someone your own age you can relate to. So I started my radio show because I wanted to find those other people my age. I didn't. But I, loved getting to talk to the guests, hear their stories. And, some of them have had the same experiences as me or similar. And it's nice to, have that kind of camaraderie with someone that understands what you've gone through.
Yeah, it's like a bond. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been out and also been active in investigations I've seen with some teams. And how's that? I mean, is it, aside from the TV production part, I've been on the Bigfoot side where they're out filming Bigfoot, and there's no way you're going to find a Bigfoot when there's 800 people with microphones and video monitors traipsing through the woods. So how is it for the ghost world?
I mean, it's so much fun getting to, experience the different investigative styles and, because so I guess if you are an investigator, some people kind of have like their home base. Like for me, I am extremely close to the Queen Mary. So that's like my thing. Like I know a lot about the history, and, when you go with other investigators, they have those places that they just love and have gone to a lot and know the history and the activity. So it's great just being able to share those stories and, hear what draws them to the specific location. Like I said, for me, I've gone to the Queen Mary like hundreds of times. It feels like probably actually accurate too. But it's just fun to get to learn from other investigators and see their side of things.
That it is true. We have two areas of the country we go to where we like, that's kind of like our home. So and I don't want to say we feel attached to a Bigfoot there, but we know what's going on there, more so than if you go, if I went to Florida, I don't know what I'd do. I mean, it would be a different thing. But so, and you've worked with a few of the celebrities and been on some of the other shows as well.
Yeah, I mean, through my radio show too. So like I said, I started at 12, but I've been in the paranormal since I was 8. And the first time I started actually investigating was on a tour on the Queen Mary. My parents went for their 10-year anniversary. They wanted to do something different, and they went on a tour with Peter James of Sightings. And I was like, why can't I go? So they took me on the next tour, what would have been his final tour, and he asked my dad to co-author his book with him. Like, he had written his whole biography and he wanted my dad to help him get it out there. So Peter passed shortly after that, and we started going to paranormal events. My dad had a table, he was speaking to promote Peter's book, Heaven Can You Hear Me? And we met tons of people through these events, and that kind of helped when I started my radio show. We had on like Debbie Constantino, who later became my mom's best friend from Ghost Adventures, the Booth Brothers. My first guest was Alexandra Holzer. Like pretty much anyone from the Travel Channel shows. I've had on Amy Allen, Destination Fear, Steve Ginsolves from Ghost Hunters, Grant Wilson. So I've met a lot of these people through events in my radio show, but I also did investigate on Ghost Adventures with the team.
Awesome. Now you've been out in the field with most of them too, right?
Yeah, some of them I haven't met in person, but yeah, I mean, I've just been like super lucky to, you know, like I said, investigate with them, get to know them, talk to them. Like Grant Wilson, he was on my show, maybe like 5 years ago. I don't remember, but he was promoting an event he was doing at the Queen Mary, and he was talking about how the previous time he had investigated there, he got the voice of a little girl, which for those who don't know, there is a spirit there named Jackie, who's a little girl in the first class pool area. And he heard her singing London Bridge. And I said, oh, that's crazy, because that's what Jackie used to do with Peter back in the 90s on sightings. And he didn't know that. So it's just crazy to, you know, get to share the stories and see how, you know, things stay the same with the spirits.
Yeah, why do you think that is? It's just a repetitive energy, or do you think their spirit is still there? Or
I think it really depends. You know, a lot of places have residual energy. Like I think like Gettysburg has that energy of war, so it's kind of like a loop that just will go on for God knows how long. And then some spirits, you know, maybe like Jackie, it reminds them of home. It's said that she's looking for her parents and is really just waiting to be able to find her parents. So maybe that song reminds her of when she had them.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I've often questioned what is on the other side, you know, and I don't know that we're ever going to get a definitive answer until we're on the other side. So
yeah,
it seems like somebody call back and go, hey, this is what it is. So.
Absolutely.
We'll get somebody famous to do it. It can't just be some schmuck like me. So
hey, no, you're good. I'm sure you would deliver a great message, but we don't want that anytime soon. So you got to stay right where you are.
Yeah, no, I don't want that. No, I'm not looking forward to that day. So, so when you're out in the field and doing your research, we touched on this briefly. Everybody has their favorite equipment. Some people like one thing over the other. I prefer audio. I think that's why I actually got into podcasting. Other people are into, well, I mean, there's high-tech toys now that'll draw stick figures and show you where things are. I don't know that I buy those yet, but what do you think about all that stuff? And what's your favorite one?
So, I mean, the X-Connect, I totally understand like where you're coming from, especially as a 25-year-old. Like I said, I started when I was 8, so your opinions changed through the years. When it first came out, there was nothing I wanted more because I'm a gamer. So it was like Xbox Paranormal, my two favorite things. It was like, you can't get better than that. But I definitely understand what you mean. I mean, I've seen it, you know, seemingly work well. Like when I did the Dark Zone event on the Queen Mary. And, you know, it was crazy to get those real-time responses of like, you know, move your arm and the stick figure, move it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can see the hesitancy with it, but also, you know, I feel like with the paranormal, you never fully know what works or doesn't because it's the paranormal. For me personally, I love devices that I can get real-time answers with. I just got an Ovilus and I'm super excited. I haven't tested it out yet, but I love things where I can interact in real time. So, you know, like if it's on video or EVP, that's super cool. I mean, like getting the EVP at my old house was amazing. You can't deny how great it is to hear that voice. But one of the things, you know, my mom said, she said, I wish I had known that it was talking to us then, because I would have responded. And that's why I like equipment that I can get those real-time responses. So if a ghost is communicating, I don't find out 5 days later when you're viewing footage or EVP or anything.
I like that. I haven't got a lot of experience with that. One of the team members has one, and we've used it a time or two, and I've just been around it. It's usually I'm more involved with the things that go bump out in the woods, not the things in the house, but my team does a little bit of everything. The Oxford Paranormal Group. And so what you probably have heard of Trey Hudson, he's our team leader. He's big into that. So I don't know. He built his own little ghost box, and he's the one that leads us in those projects, I guess. So
I mean, that's super cool.
Personally, I don't like them personally because, like I said, I would prefer to be able to see something. I'm the guy that wants to be in the woods with something that goes bump in the night or throws a rock at you. Something I can't see that can rush you. I don't know about.
Well, I mean, I definitely get it. I mean, I was just watching Grimm the other day, and they had like a episode where it was like Bigfoot chasing them, and I was thinking, I was like, you know, what would happen if someone actually ran into Bigfoot? Because this Bigfoot, it wasn't Bigfoot, it was like a werewolf, but it like mauled them, and I was like, I don't know about that one.
Well, they're not all friendly. Don't ever let anybody take you out in the woods and tell you, oh, we're gonna have a friendly Bigfoot encounter, because that isn't a positive guaranteed thing. There's and even then we don't understand, like there's Dogman. Is that part of a Bigfoot, you know, DNA or whatever? And they're definitely aggressive, so stay away from them.
I like to think of my dad as the city Bigfoot.
Oh, with the ghosts?
No, I just like to call him Bigfoot. It's one of my
okay. All right.
My dad. I had to throw that out there. If you heard me talking, heard Bigfoot the whole time I didn't mention it, he would probably be happier, but I had to throw it in.
Hey, that's okay. Hey, as long as he likes thumbs up. Well, let me ask you this. Have you had any experiences aside from when you were just learning this as a child that you've been researching and you're like, okay, it's time to get out of here? This is way too much energy, dark energy.
Yeah, I mean, I know I bring up the Queen Mary a lot, but I mean, I investigated, like I said, with Ghost Adventures, and for those who have gone to the Queen Mary, the pool area always has very low lighting, so you know, people can at least see a little bit. And it was the first time I had ever been in the pool area where it was completely pitch black, and man, it was a completely different monster at that point. I have seen a ghost in there for a while, and I call him the Shadow Man. He's not friendly. He doesn't like me. I don't like him. So we have that in common. And yeah, I mean, it was like his power energy was like cranked up to like 1,000. And I could feel him in multiple places at once, which I know sounds like really weird to say or understand. I don't really even understand it, but I would feel him in the dressing room area. And then if you're facing the pool, on the upper right-hand balcony, and actually on the upper right-hand balcony, Zach was walking around with whatever, I think an X-Connect, and he got rushed by the ghost, and my mom was sitting off in a corner, and she actually heard the footsteps running at him.
Oh.
And I wanted to say, like, that's the Shadow Man. Like, I feel the Shadow Man, but I felt like every time I was going to bring him up that I was going to cry, and I've never had that type of hold over me while investigating. And another time I would say would be, I was investigating this ghost town in Montana, and I was doing, it was an SD session, so I was the one asking the questions, and the person I was investigating with was under. And the thing that the ghost said that made me end the session, I was asking questions, and the ghost said to me, what was relayed to me was smile, which was super creepy, and it just felt like I was like, okay, we're done here. It felt very like
too personal.
Clarice Starling and Hannibal Lecter. It was like, yeah, we're done here. So I ended the session. Then we had been going for a while, but at that point it was just really creepy, and I've never had that type of creepy, just outright response by a spirit.
Wow. We did the Estes in a field. Well, Trey Hudson's The Meadow Project. And it was almost as if there were different, I'm just going to use the word entities would pass through, and you would get almost like totally different answers. And it's like, okay, are we speaking to a ghost? Are we speaking to ET? You know, it was sometimes weird like that. And we've had to end them because it just got too, we had a teammate pass away. His name was a very hard to enunciate and very rare name. In fact, I've never seen it before. During the Estes session, a person that didn't know him said his name. We were like, that's it, done. We're done. So.
Yeah, when they get like a little personal, it's like, okay, you just gotta stop it. And that spirit, at least the people that were living in the ghost town, at least what was relayed to me, it was focused on the daughter. And I know at one point, you know, people typically ask, you know, like, who do you want to talk to? And I just thought, okay, so it doesn't like her boyfriend. It's focused on her. So I said, who do you want to leave? And it said the boyfriend's name.
Oh, well.
And so then he left with it. They were just like, okay, you guys, you go, and then we'll see what we get. But it was very like on point with the answers, and it definitely had a domineering overtone to just its responses.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty creepy. When they know a name.
Yeah, it just like occurred to me. I was like, okay, well, instead of asking who he wants to talk to, let's see who he wants to leave. Because, you know, some ghosts are just like, I don't want to talk to you at all. Can you all just get out? So I'm like, who do you want to go?
But that reminds me of I can't remember who it was we had on, and they were setting up the mics in advance of the crew coming in. And he said that they, upon reviewing it back, the day that they set the mics up, there was someone speaking directly into the microphone that said, okay, they're listening to us, don't talk. It's like, okay, how do you get that?
Yeah, I feel like I'd be really borderline if I was a ghost. I'd either just be like, kind of bored, want to mess with someone, or I'd be like, you know what? I don't want to talk to anyone.
Exactly. Somebody's asked, in your experience with entities, do you believe everyone becomes a ghost when they die or captured? Maybe that up there, if their death was violent. Oh, that's kind of an interesting question.
That's a great question. I actually developed my thoughts and theories on the afterlife in Catholic school. I went from kindergarten to 8th grade, and in my 8th grade religion class, they were talking about purgatory, and it got me thinking how you don't see spirits and ghosts from like Jurassic period or you know, Egyptian spirits. And so it just made me think, you know, they must go somewhere at some point. I don't know if everyone becomes a ghost, but I definitely think that the ones that are here and you can communicate with may be stuck in a purgatory-like state, whether that's because they can't move on or because they're waiting for something. I don't know. I don't know what would be after that. But like I was saying recently, my aunt passed away a year ago, and I don't think that she would be a ghost or anything. So I think maybe some people can move on quicker than others. Why that is, I don't know. But I believe that everyone probably, even if it's a short period of time, has that time where they're in between.
I kind of agree. And one thing somebody pointed out to me is, especially from the female point of view, if they're maternal and they die and their child is young, or they have young grandchildren, they get cheated out of it. So they're going to hang around to see them grow up. And I had never thought about it from that point of view. So I thought that was kind of an interesting point. But, you know, you have the choice, but no, I'm going to hang out here until I know my grandkids are good or whatever. So,
and maybe they can, and maybe they can come back and visit. I'm not really sure at that point, but I definitely don't think that it's only if you die violently. I think even if that happens, you can probably move on. But I do think that there probably is a purgatory state, whether how long that is, I don't know. But I think because you don't have such like Jurassic period, like you don't have cavemen ghosts. So there has to be something else.
That's true. Unless you mentioned like Gettysburg, I think a lot of that is residual energy because of just so much overwhelming death and violence, and so, and even those, I would think at some point in time they would have to pass to one side or the other. But
yeah,
when
I'm sure they're probably wondering that too at a certain point.
Yeah, I've been marching up and down this road for 100 years now. Please make it stop.
Yeah, there's like no more.
Have you actually been to Gettysburg by any chance?
No, I wish. I've gone to like the East Coast and stuff, but it was with my aunt, who I mentioned earlier, and she was very like analytical. So she didn't. Well, see, she would tell you she saw a ghost, but if I brought it up, she'd be like they weren't real. So I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And so if we went and like to the East Coast, there was never any investigating. So I have yet to have the chance to go past like Arizona for investigating.
Oh, I hope you get to. It's a unique and wonderful place. I didn't go investigating, but I've met people who have investigated that area, and it's highly active. Even I stop in a little town and stay down in Emmitsburg, Maryland, and you'll hear the locals talking about things. So it's highly active. It's beautiful too. So if you get a chance to go.
Yeah, hopefully soon. My family and I were talking about maybe going to like a Paracon on the East Coast since they're all over there, and getting to go out, investigate, and see some places that we haven't been before.
Cool. That'd be great. Welcome me out to the East Coast. Maybe you can come out here and do some research. And your show is still on every week now?
Yes, it is. So it's every Saturday from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 8 p.m. GMT time.
Wow, you got that down pat.
I hope so. It's been a long time. If I didn't, I should probably quit.
I was like, she's even got Greenwich Mean Time. Wow. I tell you, look at your watch. I don't know.
My dad like drilled that in from a young age. He's like, GMT. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. And he's like, Greenwich Mean Time. I'm like, cool. I'm like, I don't know what that spans in Europe, but just
Where's
GMT.
Greenwich?
I'm like, is that London? Is it Ireland? I don't know, but GMT.
That's great. I love it. Well, in your adventures through doing this, obviously we talk about some of the scary things and dark things. What are some of the lighter moments you've had while out researching?
Some lighter moments. I mean, I haven't had anything paranormally that's lighter. More just like funny moments. Like I was investigating in a cemetery with my friend, and we were walking around, and my dad goes, "Oh, your mom's chasing rabbits," and we thought it was like an expression. And my mom was actually looking at rabbits in the cemetery, and I'm like, I didn't realize till later. So we're just like, that's a weird expression, but okay. And yeah, just really anytime I got to investigate with like my friends and just kind of go and share that experience with someone that's not my family is a lot of fun to just have that. I went and investigated with her a separate time at Black Star Canyon, and it was just a lot of fun just, going there. And when we review the footage, she was like organizing the equipment in a straight line. And then there was like coyotes in the area. Someone literally walked past us and goes, "Oh, Happy New Year. Did you hear about the coyotes?" And so we were just like, that's random. And so I went because I was hungry to go ask my parents if we could like go eat now. And she's sitting in the dark organizing this equipment. She hears something in the bushes and she just goes, "Oh, I'm so scared." It's just really funny to have those moments with people that don't experience it on a daily basis.
Yes. In the woods too. It is too.
Yeah. She was scared of the coyotes though, not the ghosts.
Yeah, I'd be more scared of the ghosts. So have you ever seen orbs up close and in person?
I don't believe I have. I mean, we've had like weird photographs. Like, well, my parents, and I'm still jealous about this. They got to go investigate Alcatraz. They got to spend the night on Alcatraz in 2009. So I was 10, and I was like, I want to go, and they're like, no. And I was like, but the Boy Scouts spend the night there, and they're just like, no. And I understand why, but I'm still jealous. I'm still upset. I don't care how long it's been. That's going to stay with me forever until I actually go. And my dad, he was walking down, I think they said D block, and he just took a picture down a dark hallway, and he came home and he brightened the photo, and you can see a full body apparition of a guy wearing a yellow shirt and khaki pants. I don't really understand the orange shirt because I did look up the prison outfits and they didn't at any time wear orange. But it was, if you're brightening a photo, it changes colors in general. So I don't know if you could see the ghost in a dark hallway, what color his outfit would be, but it was not edited in any way, just brightened. And it was so crazy to just have that full, like, you can see the full silhouette, the head, the arms, the legs, everything.
That's pretty good. Yeah, the reason I ask is sometimes we will see orbs and not hear footsteps. Sometimes we will hear footsteps and not see an orb. Mm-hmm. And so we've never been able to put if there's a correlation between the two. And a lot of times we also believe that there's some connection, and maybe it's just because they're in a different realm than us, but between, maybe what people are calling aliens and the Bigfoot and the whole supernatural thing. So that's why I ask about the orbs. Someone asked, does Sophia see her business model? Good Lord, they wrote a paragraph here to see her business model changing to recreate a loved one's life using AI and Chat GPT. So captures much audio, video, and chat logs from that person and run it through an algorithm so they can chat with their grandchildren.
Yeah, so I mean, this is not like a business like that for me. Everything I capture is real, whether people believe it or not. I'm not here to tell people their beliefs. So I'm not creating anything with AI. I'm not photoshopping anything. So I would not be using AI in any form of anything. Yeah, I don't see, I mean, I would think that's more up to the person who would want to chat with their grandparent if they would want to use AI through like a chatbot, but that's not me. I think probably a lot of people wouldn't want their deceased loved one being used through AI, but that's just me. I can't speak for anyone else. Some people might find that comforting. But I also think AI will make it harder for people to want to understand evidence instead of like, oh, that's Photoshop. They'll just be like, oh, that's AI.
Yes. It's already rampant in the Bigfoot community. There's so many pictures. Like, I see, it's a great clear picture. Yeah, that's AI. So come on now. They don't have 15 toes. Do you like one thing you said, and I believe it too, it's not my job to prove to you that Bigfoot exists. I know it exists. Mm-hmm. And it's not my responsibility. You've got to have it. Have you ever seen that aha moment? I love that when they realize, crap, there's something else in the woods, and you just see it's like a switch click on. Have you seen that with anyone as far as dealing with spirits?
I mean, I haven't gone with too many skeptics. I'm trying to get my best friend Steven to go. He's just annoying, so he's always telling me it's not. He's like it's not real. And then he said to my other friend, he was like, oh yeah, I didn't say I don't believe in ghosts. I said, you said it to me. He's like, well, it's you. So I'm trying to get him to have that moment, but he's just being Steven. And so, I mean, I haven't had that, but in my haunted house, my cousin Cassie, like I said, she was staying there and she was sharing a bed with me. And she saw a man standing over her, and I was asleep, and she said she grabbed me and held on to me, and she saw him standing there. She blinked, he was still standing there, and then eventually it went away. But I think that's not that she didn't believe before, but one of those moments that really solidifies whether or not you believe something's real. If you don't have an opinion or not, I'm not sure if she did, but I just don't think it was something she really thought about. And then after that, having that experience, it's like, okay, this actually happened.
Yeah, that would be. I can't imagine having somebody standing over you growing up. I know if with my kids, if that happened, I would be, like you said, if it was an adult or a human, he'd be throwing them under the jail. So yeah, I'd never given that much thought, but I guess I always think that, there's there's tricksters in real life, there's tricksters in the afterlife. There's probably perverts in the afterlife as well, now that I think about it,
Yeah, of course. I mean, I know, and this isn't like, I mean, not something extremely perverted, but like my mom, when she was on Alcatraz, she would like be talking to the ghost and the door would shake, like they're like just talking to her. And I mean, obviously a prisoner is going to see a woman and be like, oh my God. So, but they have, just they have preferences, whether they want to talk to a man or a woman, or if it's a mother spirit, like you said, they have that maternal instinct and, may want to comfort a child when, sometimes that doesn't come across when you're a ghost. But, sometimes these ghosts don't have any ill intentions and they just want to feel again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've often wondered if especially the young children, they will say they see things or hear things and the adults just blow it off. I've often wondered maybe they really are, because they're not programmed yet to tune that stuff out, because I think we all have that innate ability.
Absolutely. Like I said, when I was younger in that house, I think I had experiences that I don't remember. When you're at that age when you can walk but can't talk yet, I would go and stand with my back against the laundry room door, just frozen. And my grandma saw me do it, my mom, my dad. And my mom would have to come up and actually touch my hand for me to move. And I don't remember this at all. But looking back, we think that I was seeing something. And so, children, do have those experiences. Like I loved the movie Charlie's Angels when I was younger. And so my dad got me an autographed photo of Drew Barrymore and my parents hung it up in my room. And I was like, it's watching me. You have to take it down. You have to take it down. My parents are like, why don't you like Drew Barrymore? And I think looking back, what I was associating the picture with was actually coming off of the ghost, but I didn't know it at that point in time.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Yeah. I'm sorry. I can't imagine growing up that way. It had to be bad.
Yeah, it sucked.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And I'm glad you're out of that situation. Now you probably feel like you have more control over those type of things, I'm sure.
I mean, you do and you don't, just because having to, as someone said in the chat room, sounds traumatic. It was, and having to work through those emotions and really unpack them kind of on your own, because it's so just, I don't know, it's just so violating. And trying to deal with that, I mean, it's still hard for me to sleep sometimes because you just feel like someone's going to be over you. And so it's just one of those things where you do, because now I'm able to talk about it and not be like on the verge of tears. And so that it feels good. It feels good to not have that. But at the same time, I don't think I'll ever feel normal.
Okay, hold on 1 second here. We have a caller coming in. Caller, can you hear us? I think. Hello. Okay, maybe we don't. I saw it light up. Technology. All right. Maybe they can try back. Yeah, and one thing I got sidetracked. This is why it's good to have a co-host. I don't have to push a button. But now in your more, we'll call it your older professional life, you've learned how, I'm sure, to control it and you tune them out as well, I assume. That's not the right word. Close the door, so to speak, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, part of the reason when I was in Montana and the person I was investigating with was in the SD session is because I did the SD session once and I didn't get a thing. And I think it's because I closed myself off so much to that for fear of what would happen if I opened myself up to it. And so I think I just set boundaries of how much I want to, like, you really have to open yourself up in the SD session to let those responses come through. And I just I wasn't gonna do that. So it's just one of those things where you, I guess, have to know your boundaries and limits of what it is. Like I was talking to some people about an investigation once, and they were trying to stay overnight for like a significant amount of time at a location. And we didn't end up doing the investigation, but I was saying like, yeah, you know, I have trauma from my haunted house. And they were like, oh my God, that'd be so fun to do an experiment with. And I'm like, what? I'm like, no.
No, it's not really.
Hi, Kevin. So, yeah, it's just one of those things, I think, knowing your boundaries and just understanding what your limits are. And it's like that, whether you lived in a haunted house or not, as an investigator, just knowing what you're comfortable with and knowing what you want to stop at, where you're comfortable going, because you can't predict what's going to happen in the paranormal. But, you know, if you're going to Goatman's Bridge, you have a higher potential of running into something you may not want to than if you go to like an abandoned school or something.
Yeah. And one thing we found, Bigfoot and ET like to hang out together. So you may have a Bigfoot encounter and also have an ET encounter and not be expecting it. And then we've also we went to a house in Florida looking for Bigfoot and we found ghosts. So yeah. I was like, I'm out. I'll be at the beach. So like I said, know your limitations. Like I said, I think mine is because I grew up around it and just the fear. And fear is not the right word, but just strong dislike. So, and I don't have any voices coming through telling me anything. I don't want that. Just throw a rock at me from the woods. So I'm happiest that way. Speaking of that, have you ever had any experiences with any other entities?
I have not that I'm aware of. I'm pretty clumsy, so like if a ghost tripped me, I would probably think I did it myself. So not that I'm aware of, because I mean, it really has to be something communicating with me. Otherwise, if I get scratched by a ghost, I did it myself. It's one of those things you have to try and decipher, and I am more likely if something's talking to me to understand.
Now, what about like Zach? He's always getting touched and scratched and burned, and good Lord, I would have quit by now.
Yeah, no, that's a lot. That's why I said, like, you know, you have to know your limits. Like for me personally, I'm not going to go to Goatman's Bridge. That's what Zach did, but I am not going to put myself in that situation. I want to go to, like, you know, cool places with history. I mean, yeah, I do want to go to an asylum, but like I still draw the line at like Goatman's Bridge or something. So you have to know like what you're comfortable with and just where you feel comfortable putting your energy.
That's true. That's true. A lady we interviewed here recently, she has pretty much made, like you have the ship. She has a hospital, an old country hospital that's in her area. She feels comfortable there, goes there and gets stories and feels more at ease. So I get that. I get that a lot. I don't know that I would want to go looking for Bigfoot in Oregon. You know, so it's the same thing. So you don't want to put yourself out there too much, but I also think once you open that door to the energy, whatever that energy is, it's called the woo-woo, whatever, it opens it for everything, for Bigfoot, for ET, for ghosts. Now that's just my opinion. I don't know that I can throw a penny down on the ground with everybody else's, I guess. So, but yeah, I feel like once you're open to it, it's like, oh, hey, this guy's a light and shining. You know, we can go right to him. So,
yeah, I mean, that's definitely the thing. You know, like when people say like don't communicate with spirits when you're in a haunted house because it just opens the door for them. But then at the same time, if you're already dealing with it, well, how else are you going to figure out what's there? So it's that balance of, you know, figuring out how to open yourself up to having these experiences while also trying to keep yourself protected enough to, you know, if you go to the grocery store, you don't want to deal with it. If I'm playing video games in my house, I don't want to be having a spirit there.
Sure. What do you do for protection, by the way?
Honestly, nothing, because living in a haunted house, I didn't feel safe at any point in time. There was nothing I felt could protect me. There was nothing I felt could stop it. And I just think if a spirit's going to do something, they're going to do it no matter what you do.
I agree. And how do you feel like? Do you feel like they can, I don't want to use the words read your mind, but they kind of have a premonition about what you're going to say and things? It's almost to be like they know ahead of time sometimes.
I think I mean, it's hard to say what they do or don't know, but I think maybe they can pick up on, like how dogs have heightened hearing. Maybe they can pick up on your energy a little bit better than you can. If you're feeling sad or nervous, you know, the wrong spirit can probably prey on that. So it's really just about how you're feeling in that moment and what the spirit is going to do with that information.
That's true. And another thing I also thought about, and you said something about it earlier, a lot of the people that they say have mental illness, I sometimes question that. You know, maybe they are seeing Richard Simmons in a tree or whatever. You know, being silly, but you know what I'm saying? Maybe they really are, you know?
Well, that's the thing. You know, some people are having experiences and some people think that's a mental illness. Some people are mentally ill and they're not seeing anything. And then there's also that probably middle road where they're like my grandfather. He was definitely mentally ill, but I do think that there was a ghost preying on that as well. So you have kind of that middle road where there are people that are probably having that preyed on, and no one would ever know or understand, because how do you decipher what is real for them and what their mind is creating?
Yeah. I heard a psychologist tell somebody, oh, you're schizophrenic because you've seen a ghost or believe in ghosts. I like whipped around like, what did you just say? It's how do you know they're not there, you know? So, well, you're a scientist. Well, look, Sophia, we've kept you a long time. I don't want to keep you much longer, but obviously I want you to tell everybody where they can find you. Do you got anything new coming up? And I hope that I haven't scared you off from coming back. So.
No, I would love to come back on. I appreciate you having me. You guys can find me. Some of my previous shows are archived on youtube.com, the ghost host Sophia Temperilli. You can see our upcoming guests on at Ghost Host Show on Twitter. You can follow me at Sophia Temperilli. You can check Facebook like page, the ghost host Sophia Temperilli on liveparanormal.com. Instagram at Sophia Temperilli. You can listen to archive shows, iTunes podcasts, Blog Talk Radio, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and you can listen to my show, like I said, every Saturday on liveparanormal.com. It's easiest to listen to, Blog Talk Radio, type it in there. And 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. GMT.
You've got that down pat. I love it. Be careful out there. There's a lot of weirdos if you haven't found out yet. So,
well, one was living in my house as a ghost. So,
yeah, I haven't had that weirdo. I've had the ones who get a restraining order. I haven't had that weirdo yet.
Yet. So, but
yes.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Stay safe out there, and we will stay in touch. And I would love to have you back sometime. And if you make it to the East Coast, definitely, that would be kind of cool. So, all right.
Absolutely.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and then our next guest is hiding in the background. So we will be right back, and I'm going to tuck you backstage, Sophia.
Let's get ready to rumble!
I'm Miranda Maverick, and when I'm in fight camp, I never listen to the Sportcat podcast.
That's right. Never listen to the Sportcat podcast. All right. Well, our next guest is a former athlete, pro musician, and now he's got a book that's a bestseller. His name is Leslee Hall. He is backstage. Leslee Hall. Let's bring him out and welcome him. Welcome. How are you?
Hey, Glenn. I'm doing good, buddy. How about yourself?
Yeah, doing well. It's a hot summer night here in Atlanta, so
yeah, it's hot down near the Gulf Coast in Alabama as well.
Ah, well, but you got better fishing down there, so
we do have good fishing, man. We've got rivers and then a whole ton of inshore fishing and then offshore fishing, and you can do it. You don't even have to get in a vehicle. You can just start in the river and go all the way down and get in the Gulf. It's pretty impressive, honestly.
Yeah, I know. I'm jealous. I get to do it every now and then. I'm very jealous. So,
I lived in Nashville for a decade, and I used to tell people all the time, this playground here does not compare to the playground there.
Exactly. When I grew up, we always went to the mountains. I'd never been until I was, like 18, able to drive, or me or my friends were able to drive to go to a beach. I'd never been to a beach. And I was like, why do people not prefer beaches?
The beach is great. I grew up a little town just tucked in with Gulf Shores, Alabama, called Bear Point, Alabama. My family had a little cabin down there back when, nobody knew about it, and it was cheap to have a little cabin there. And so I spent most of my childhood at the beach in the backwater bays and that sort of thing, fishing and skiing and kneeboarding and all that sort of stuff. And it's just the playground here is immense and varied and beautiful, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Agreed. And some other people argue, well, we've got the mountains and the cooler weather and this and that. Yeah, you do. So
yeah, mountains, mountains are foreign to me. Well, they were at one point. I've seen plenty of them now, but Nashville looked like it had mountains when I first moved there.
Oh yeah, those are called ridges. So
yeah, I've seen the difference now, but they sure did feel like mountains when I first got there. So
absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I started off with your fishing. You sound like you're a fishing expert. Well, you may be.
My brother is the fisherman in the family.
Okay, what sport were you in, by the way? Because I see that on.
Man, I was born into a baseball family. Everybody in my family played baseball, and from the time we could stand on our own, we had a wiffle ball bat in our hands. My grandmother likes to tell the story of her hitting us infield in the yard, and just she's in the other room now. I'm off the road for a couple weeks, so I'm here with her, and she's in there watching the Braves game as we speak. Well, actually, I think it just ended, but I kept popping in and checking the score with her.
I think they were down a run when I started. I don't remember. So
I think they finished 9-2. I think they came out on the better side of that one. So
well, they must have.
Yeah, huge Braves fans down here.
Yeah, the score wasn't that great when I last looked. That was a little while ago.
Well, to answer your question, man, I'm on the road with a nationally touring country musician right now, helping him hold his business down. It's a singer named Larry Fleet. His song that he's most well known for is called "Where I Find God." The name gets confused sometimes by his fans, and we have a kind of an inside joke with that. I almost said it the wrong way, but "Where I Find God" is his big catalog song that everybody knows. And so I traveled around with him quite a bit. I started that, and he and I have been friends for a long, long time. And I started traveling with him in August of 22. Backing up before that, most of my focus over the last couple of years has been trying to get my book published that I'd written. Revelation in 2018, COVID happened. I thought, I'm never going to have another opportunity like this. Let me see if I can write it down. And I did, much to my surprise, actually. And so it's been trying to figure out the road to get that thing onto a runway to try to get it launched. And I was finally able to do that last year. So now it's just how can I put gas in the engine so now it can fly,
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about the book, because it sounded like it was from personal experience, what I was reading.
It really was. It was like I said, I had the revelation in 2018, early 2018. But the catalyst for that happened in 2013. I lost a very serious relationship that I thought was going to last a lot longer than it did. And that kind of crashed my belief system. So for the next few years, I'm just sitting up on a perch in downtown Nashville, Tennessee, just watching humanity play, And in 2018, it dawned on me that if I looked at my behavior and the behavior of my friends and the behavior of anybody really, and viewed it through the lens of an animal, a lot of it started making a lot more sense. And it dawned on me that there's a human and an animal riding around in here. And there's a tug of war between the two of them. Sometimes what makes the best sense for us to do for, acting in our own best interest is not the route we take. And, other irrational things that we do, the difference between emotions and a thought and where those come from, and basically what the animal's idea of success is and what its goals are, what its fears are, versus the human with its advanced tools. You being able to use logic and reason and time in an abstract form, and morality and empathy and all these things that help it calculate how to act, versus the animal who is purely emotional and impulsive. And just basically the goal of the book is to take both of those out and introduce them to each other so that they can communicate with each other. And if you can achieve that symbiosis to where the human understands the animal and the animal understands that the human is doing its best to look out for it, then you can really be precise in how you move forward in life, with where you want to go and with where you've been and where you want to go versus where you are right now. And it's helped me get a very clear vision of who I am, not only who I am, but why I am the way that I am. You know, like I said, I was born into a baseball family. A lot of things in my life came from my family. You know, I was shown an operating code from the people that surrounded me, you know, the good, bad, and the ugly. It was up to me to adopt that code or edit that code. I didn't know any of that at the time. It was all done subconsciously, you know, often with the best of intentions and often with no intentions at all. But the self-awareness to see that code and the ability to edit it where I need to.
Okay.
My animal training, you know, so to speak.
Well, and that's what I was asked. How do you get? Is it, I don't know, is it a meditation? Is it a deep thought, or is it just sitting down and doing a deep analytical view of yourself?
Well, for me, the original revelation came from a significant amount of solitude and contemplation on, like I said, my belief system crashed. I believed one thing, and it was clearly the other. I don't mind telling you, I talk about it in the book, but my relationship ended, the one that I thought was going to be my forever relationship. And I couldn't figure out that I had done anything wrong. And so I thought, my parents have been married for 34 years the year my dad died. And my grandparents were married for almost 70 when my grandfather passed away. And so my belief system, my animal training said that once you find your partner, you stick it out. You know, you might not always like each other, but you work it out. You stay together. And when that didn't happen, it was very clear to me that something that I believed was clearly not true, at least not in the world that I was living in at that point. And so that kind of crashed my belief system. And that got me thinking, what else do I believe to be true, but is not true? And so I started kind of observing the world. I had an amount of solitude, and I was playing downtown Nashville for the better part of 8 years, sometimes 7 nights a week, interfacing and entertaining tourists. And I loved it, man. I had a great time in Nashville. I've got friends all over this country and all over the world, really, because of downtown Nashville. But what that gave me was an extended gaze into the human condition. To have to interface with so many people and to have statistically meaningful encounters with people, to hear their stories and to know where they come from and hear, you know, elements of their worldview. I just really got a good glimpse into who we are and why we are. And like I said, when I was able to figure out that, man, I act the same as an animal does. Let me see about that. I'll tell you the first thought that I ever had leading to this.
Okay. In
downtown Nashville, I played at a place called Swinging Doors Saloon, and we had a really close working family there. The bartenders, all the musicians, and the security. We would all kind of congregate after our shift was done. You know, after I was done playing music or the bartender got off or whatever, we'd kind of catch a corner of the bar there and sit there and hang out and talk with each other. And then we'd all walk to the parking garage together. Well, one night I had finished up and I had gone back there, but nobody else was really done. It was kind of a slow night. And so I was sitting down there by myself, and a fella came in that I had seen before, but I hadn't met him. I hadn't had an encounter with this guy. he comes in and he sits, and I'm, 3 seats down from him. I'm facing him. He's facing this way. And I'm just kind of observing, as I always do. And he's fidgeting with his phone. Well, condensed version of the story. The bartender comes over and asks him, what can I get you? And he orders a draft beer. And as he's waiting on his beer, sifting through his phone, and the bartender comes back and he shows the phone. And she says, "Oh man, that's awesome. Did you make that? That's pretty cool." Repeat that process when the manager came over, and I'm wondering what's on his phone. So he finishes his draft beer and leaves. And the bartender comes over and the manager comes over, and I said, "Hey, what was that interchange about?" And this guy was a regular there, and I knew I'd seen him before. Just had never met him. And he, really nice dude, really friendly guy, works at McDonald's. And on his phone, he's showing them a picture of a dessert that he had made because he aspires to be a chef. And I thought, so he just came in here, rolled over, and you guys scratched his belly, and then he went along his way. And they said, "Yeah, I guess that's what happened." He came in there, he showed this thing, they gave him the reward, and he went away wagging his tail. And I thought, man, and I told those guys that night, I believe that if I took every dude I've ever known and every dog I've ever known, I could probably find a 1-to-1 personality match. And that was the original kind of catalyst to, man, maybe there's something to this. What else can I explain with this? And then one day it just dawned on me. I'm an animal first and a human second. I came into this existence 100% an animal. I knew no language. I knew no logic. I knew no reason. I knew no time. I knew nothing. I knew none of the higher functioning tools that we adapt to as we grow. That's true. So I was 100% an animal there for a good little bit.
That's true. And it's not just feral toddlers. It's true.
No.
It's your programming. It's what's around you. Yeah.
That's right. We have to learn how to live this life. Some of us do. Yeah. Some of us don't. Some of us struggle with it our entire lives. And the goal of this book is to try to help alleviate some of that struggle and some of that suffering, because a lot of it's unnecessary. I know, because I once carried that same load.
What do you think the best way is to get in touch with your inner self like that? Is it just intent?
I think that's a lot of it. I think that you have to realize it's there first. And that's the goal of, the first few chapters of the book. I try to walk people through that revelation in the same manner that I had it. The questions that I was asking myself as I was moving towards this idea before I finally got to it. And hopefully I lead them to the same aha moment that I had. And then I show some pictures of the current world that we live in. Not any actual pictures, but paint some pictures of the world that we live in and show some places where this perspective helps explain things. And then we go into the more, I don't want to call it romantic side, the more relationship side of how this thing plays out. And sometimes we frustrate our people, all of our relationships. Sometimes they frustrate us. And part of that's because we don't know why. We don't know why this is happening. We don't know why they can't see our line of thinking. They can't see the way we see it. And hopefully, once again, kind of separating the masculine from the feminine, and let's look at each other and let's try to figure out how we can better communicate so that we don't suffer unnecessarily.
Yeah, a lot of that is communication. You're 100% right. And
right. But the animal, sorry, go ahead, Glenn.
No, I was just going to say, I do believe that there is that inner animal, if you will, as you say, inside of you. I mean, 100% agree with that. I went to a class and the instructor worked for a 3-letter agency, and he was teaching this course. And he said, in order to get to a certain level, you have to separate the two. And basically, he's give us a objective of putting the animal on one side of it. You're on an island or in a cloud or wherever, and you're in a glass house. One side of the house is exactly the same as the other. and you have to lure that animal in there, close the door, and then you're staring at it through the glass and communicate with it. This is an actual thing they did in the CIA, believe it or not. And I was like, wow, this is kind of weird. And so we did have this project, and I did have that aha moment. So I don't disagree with you at all.
Well, that's awesome, man. I didn't know the CIA was onto it. I figured they might be, but I didn't know that they were. The idea,
they're probably AI years ahead of us.
Probably. There's no telling how far. Part of the idea behind this book, I want to make sure this is one thing that I may or may not have made clear in the book. Both the human and the animal have their functions. There are times where you want to be an animal instead of a human. If you have a spider on your lap, you don't want to have to think about the best way to get up off the couch and get that spider off of you. You want the animal to take over. But there are times where you most definitely do not want the animal to be in charge. Things where we get offered cheap rewards that are easy and without consequence. Those rewards may be food rewards. They may be sexual rewards. We've all had sex that we shouldn't have had before at some point. You know what I mean? Or most of us have anyway. And being able to jerk the leash on the animal that I am sometimes keeps me out of those situations. To know, even though this might be a beautiful thing in the moment, it's not going to be a beautiful thing for an extended period of time. This is going to come, the risk reward scenario is out of balance here. And some of this isn't righteous or whatever the case may be. It's a really, really nice way to remind yourself that some of these rewards that we find ourselves seeking are cheap and risky. So it's a way to honestly discipline yourself when maybe there's no one else around that can do it. I'm going to see about switching to my headphones here. Glenn, my AirPods are slipping and sliding all around. I keep talking and smiling. Let me see if this works real quick.
It's all good, brother. Yeah, I really respect what you're doing.
There we go. Way better.
So I would say, yeah, I really I respect what you're doing. I respect that you are putting out there that there is a separation. And I don't know, some people can't get it. I mean, some people can't separate the two. No. I worked as a paramedic firefighter for years, and I agree there, not only is there the fight or flight nervous system, there is something else inside of us. And sometimes it can come out and be the good one, or sometimes it can come out and be the bad one. And it's not all about just, everybody likes to toss up that it's mental illness. I don't necessarily believe that's the case. I believe that's your operation on intent and impulse a lot of times. And people don't know how to control that.
I agree. There are most definitely some solid cases of mental illness. I think that maybe they're a little too generous with that term here and there. But it really isn't. Yeah, right. So they can sell you a pill. We can talk about Big Pharma for the rest of the night if you want to, but to put a point on the point that I was trying to make, the idea is not to kill the animal inside or to discourage it in any way. It's to be able to understand it and to be able to control it when you need to. I say in the book to let it roam free, to jerk the leash, there's a whole other list of things in there that I'm blanking on at the moment, but the idea is cooperation. The animal doesn't have any language, so it can't articulate what it feels. That sometimes you feel crummy and you can't put your finger on why you feel crummy. You have no motivation or whatever the case may be. Your self-worth is taking a hit for the moment. The idea is, once you know it's there and once you know that it doesn't have language, then you can start to interpret what those things mean. Instead of just feeling it, you can start to understand why you're feeling it. And if you can understand why you're feeling it, then you're more likely to be able to find what you can do about it. And this, the symbiosis between the human and the animal is what I'm after.
Sure.
And I think, like I said, it gives me a very much so the ability to operate with far more precision than I've ever been able to operate before. To serve in whatever capacity I can serve in, and be proud to do it. I'm able to offer help, to know what help to offer, to know if that help is going to be received, or if I should just get out of the way and not waste my time on this particular thing. It helps me spot lies and subsequently know truths. It's a blurry fabric has been removed, and I'm able to see further down into the motivations for behaviors instead of just behaviors. And if I understand what the motivations are, then I understand how they're going to behave in any given circumstance. So it helps me to know people on a much deeper level, even sometimes better than they know themselves.
Interesting. Do you wish, I mean, I guess we all could say this, you'd been able to go back and tell your young self, hey, open your eyes, dummy.
Right. I mean, I wish I could go back and talk to my younger self. I'm fortunate that I didn't make a whole ton of mistakes as it was. I come from a very lower middle class family, but it's a family where they loved and supported each other. And I was able to grow up with that love and support. I was given room to fail. I was given encouragement to succeed. My family has seen probably 98% of the baseball games I ever played in. My parents and grandparents were there, and I count that as a treasure, a trophy to put in the trophy case. As I recognize that's not something not something a lot of people get to claim. My parents and grandparents come out to see me play music, and my father and my grandfather are both gone now, but my grandmother will still come if it's an early enough restaurant type of show or something like that. We've played close to home with my friend Larry, the country artist that I tour with, and the whole family comes down to that, and I get to treat them like royalty, get to get them access that they haven't seen in their lifetime. So it's a beautiful thing to be able to give gifts like that. So.
Yeah, and that's worth more than any amount of money in your wallet or
I agree.
Anything you hang on the wall. You hold that in here,
right?
And that's more important. So
yeah, I believe so. I think it's definitely wealthy in all the ways money can't buy.
Yeah, you can. What did somebody once say? Money can buy you a whole lot of happiness, but it can't buy you a whole lot of depression or something like that. I can't remember how it went, but it was something that said, buy you a whole lot of happiness. No, the more money you have, you can buy yourself a lot of happiness. The less money you have, you can buy yourself a whole lot of depression. And I was like, no, that's not entirely true, because it's what you make of your situation.
Absolutely.
You may come from, I'm a kid from the streets of Washington, D.C. that ended up being a paramedic flying the world, taking care of patients. I think I did something, and now I'm getting to do this and meet and talk to all kinds of interesting people.
Yeah, this is a really cool thing you have going on, man. Really cool thing.
Well, thank you. I love doing it, and I love having guests like you on that can explain things that maybe I cannot articulate that I believe in wholeheartedly. I'm just sometimes not good at articulating everything. Like if you heard me tell the guest earlier, she was a ghost person. I don't like to play with the ghosts. I'd rather be out in the woods playing with big hairy things. I don't want something is bump in the night in my house. No, not a fan. Just go away. But it's hard sometimes to articulate these things, and I enjoy you guys coming on. And especially you have the ability to put it in writing. How in the heck did you manage to organize all the thoughts and everything down into a book? It's a miracle to me.
I'll tell you, man, I was a baseball player all the way into college. And by the time I finished college, I was a working musician. And I had never really even fancied myself an author before. I barely even like to read books. I prefer to listen to them, but But even then, you know, I would read educational things sometimes, but as far as some sort getting a piece from it, I didn't, you know, sitting still for someone who likes to be outside is sometimes tough to do. The greatest thing ever was the audiobook, because now I can put it right in my ears and I can keep moving, you know. And so it was a pretty daunting task, to be honest. Like I said, when COVID happened, I was in Nashville playing 7 nights a week and just living my best life. You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden I was playing 0 nights a week.
Yeah.
So fortunately for me, I had a little altitude built up. I didn't have to, you know, bail right away. So I was able to adopt a wait and see type of attitude. And so I had all this free time all of a sudden. So I upped my exercise game and started trying new experiments in the kitchen. And I like to build things out of, I would find all the scrap wood that Nashville was going through a big boom at the time. So there was just, you know, lumber piles everywhere of scrap wood. So I would pillage those from time to time and build things for my friends' shelves and desk and things like that. Nothing fancy, but it was all made out of reclaimed wood. So it kind of had its, you know, sentimental type of value to it. So I would do all those things. And then at night I would sit down and I would try to think about how to write a book. And finally I just decided maybe I'll define my goals, and then maybe I'll try to design an outline, and then I'll just sit down and go and see what happens. And so that's what I did. I sat down and kind of thought about what the overarching goals were. One was to write it in a language that, you know, not a technical language. I didn't want to do a lot of research and use a lot of medical type terms or scientific studies or anything. I wanted to tell the story about how I'd come to this perspective so that it would be digestible for more folks. Because I don't know about you, but I don't read scientific papers, you know. And so I did that. So the length was another. I wanted to keep it short enough to digest. I didn't want it to be a chore to read for anyone. And there are a couple more goals that are escaping me now. But then I set out to make an outline, and I thought, what is it I'm trying to say? And that was easy to figure out because it's, you know, it's the perspective that I live by, that I see the world through now. So it was pretty easy to articulate. And then I just kind of broke it down as to I need to pick up the reader at the beginning, at the starting point, and then walk them through kind of the mind frame that I was in and the discoveries that I was having that led me to this revelation of, holy crap, I'm an animal. And then I thought it was important to me to express to the reader, whoever's reading the book, that, hey, man, this is just the way that I have found to view the world that works best for me. You don't have, my objective isn't to club anyone over the head and make them think the way that I do. It's here's the light that I see through. If you want to borrow it, you're welcome to it. And then it's how do I show some examples of what I'm talking about and how this helps me think about and get down to the bedrock of the problem rather than just, you know, curse at the symptoms everywhere. And one thing that it really, really helped me with was dating life. Nashville, you know, is a small city, but it was growing pretty immensely. And the dating life and the culture of online dating was really taking hold while I was there. And, you know, navigating these spaces for the first time, trying to do no damage to someone else or to myself. You know, I'd had a pretty severe heartbreak in 2013. That was the first time for me. I didn't know, honestly, that it was real. I thought it was just weak. And then it happened to me. And I thought, holy crap, is this what this is about? So I was trying to avoid that, you know, being very, very diligent and careful about how I navigated that world, so much so that it was borderline paralyzing for me. I didn't have a lot of success there for a couple of years in that world. And it wasn't until I had this revelation that I was able to see what was before me, not what I thought it should be or what I wished it would be, but what was actually there. It helps me to recognize the cues of attraction And that allows me to be far more precise with the shots that I shoot, so to speak, as the kids would say these days. So it was important for me to try to show that light too. And so that was kind of how I took the book out. And then the last chapter is kind of reiterating the way that the perspective and how I see through it, and that it's just my obligation to share. That's the deal that I made with the universe, is I'm going to share this. It doesn't matter if someone, doesn't want to see it, refuses to see it, aggressively tries not to see it, whatever the case may be. It was just up to me to put it down and release it into the universe, and what, the universe will determine its ultimate value.
Sure. Absolutely. I meant to ask also, were you a songwriter?
Yeah, that was the main reason I moved to Nashville. When I graduated college, I was already a gigging musician. And my degree was in corporate finance. And so I actually had a job fall in my lap, and I went to work for an engineering firm for 3 years. Made some lifelong friends there, but music was still calling me, and the business was growing and my band was growing. Sooner or later one had to give. So I was able to train my corporate replacement, and then I just hit the road full time. So I did that for a decade. Had some great times, made some great memories, but it had gotten a little bit old, always being gone. So I thought, how can I do this, but also settle down into a space? And Nashville seemed like the thing. So I was going to move up there and try to be the songwriter instead of having to run all over the Southeast, which is what we were doing at the time. And the cool thing about it is once I got there, I was able to see behind the curtain of the music industry. Before I got there, it was kind of still romantic. Here's this beautiful thing that goes on, and music means so much to me, and it always has. But we all tend to see it through rose-colored glasses. But I was kind of able to see behind the curtain, and the more network I developed, and the more things that I was privileged to work on, I got to see further and further behind the curtain. And sorry to say and happy to say, the romance kind of faded away, and I could see the industry for the industry at that point. Then COVID happened, and I knew inflation was on the way. So my grandfather was on his way out at that point. He died one day shy of his 91st birthday.
Oh, wow.
So my grandmother was here, and my this side of my family lives very close down here, very tight knit family. And so it just seemed like the logical choice to not only did I feel like I wanted to go home, but all the logic pointed to the same thing. And when the human and the animal shook hands on it, that's when I made my plans to move back home. And I got home just in time, got to say a proper goodbye to my grandfather, got to, help my grandmother lift the weight around here, and do all the man things, cut the grass and all that sort of stuff. And then my friend Larry called in 2022 and said, "Hey man, I need some help. Can you come help me keep the wheels on this bus?" And I tried to tell him no to start with, but then I thought about it. I thought, this is an opportunity. I have to go look at this. The education is going to be here. This is the most pro level that you can, it's the smaller end of the proest level, but it is the proest level. So even further view behind the curtain of the music industry. So, but it's been quite the adventure, man.
I was going to ask you, what's it like? Is it anything like the picture on TV, the rock and roll lifestyle, where you're gone every night, tour bus, and is it wildlife? Or
there are some camps in the industry that do run pretty hard, if you know what I mean. Our camp, I don't find our camp that way. There's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of money changing hands, and so it's best to kind of mind your business manners, you know what I mean? And so for us, it's we're a tight knit group. There's a lot of good conversations to be had in that group, and a lot of love to be shared in that group. But it's more about the business for us. Kind of once we clock out at night, we'll let our hair down just a little bit. But it's you'd be surprised at how bored you might be on our tour bus from time to time.
Well, I have a little peak because, like I said, as a flight medic, we were gone for 2 weeks at a time. So I get it. There's times we were in the plane flying cross country, looking at each other like, I can't stand you. I've got another week to go with you.
Yeah,
and it wasn't nothing personal. It was just,
right.
It was just, oh, get me off this. I need a break. So yeah.
We're pretty fortunate that we have bunks in the tour bus, and these are, I call it my coffin. It's a little bitty, it's about 6 feet by 2 feet, something like that. But there's something about the curtain. As you draw that curtain, you are in a world of your own. So if you need to get away from the crew, if you need some alone time or, some time to decompress, you can. It's not exactly legit, but it feels legit, which is the most important thing. So you just pull that curtain back and you're by yourself.
Absolutely.
So
yeah. It's
our crew really, we hang out quite a bit, though. There's always something funny being said or something, mind-boggling being said, that sort of thing. We have a lot of cool conversations, and there's a lot of information to be had, and just a lot of experience to be shared. So it really is a cool thing, man. It's I have a road family, and then I have a home family.
It is cool. I would like that. I don't know if I'd like to travel at my age now, but
yeah, we're home for 2 weeks right now, and I'm ecstatic about it, man. I was ready for a break. We take for granted sleeping in a bed at 0 miles an hour, and I'm happy to sleep at 0 miles an hour for a couple weeks.
I understand it. I feel you. Somebody that's just trying to find themselves, maybe they haven't heard of your book and they're just watching tonight. What would be some pointers you would say is your first sign that you need, I won't say an intervention, but you need to take a deeper look?
For me, it was things are clearly not going my way. Why is that? It corresponded with the crash of my belief system, which, was the thing that let the light in to start looking around and figure out what is actually true. And I don't necessarily think, outside of scientific truth, I don't think there is really any objective truth for the collective. I think that everybody's life experience is different, and it all trains them and teaches them in a different way. But there are certain commonalities to things that, the thread runs through many things. And I'm kind of tangenting right now, but back to your question, like I said earlier, we suffer, I forget who said it, but we suffer more in our minds than we do in the real world. And it is a superpower to be able to recognize when I'm suffering here, when I don't need to be, and to be able to do something about that. Occasionally, I'll still feel like a little emotional funk coming on where my motivation is down, or maybe I haven't done anything towards my goal in a couple of days, and maybe I'm subconsciously feeling that or whatever. And that, that little emotional funk that comes on, and I've learned to spot that at an instant and develop more or less a protocol to head that off at the pass. I know about myself that the slightest little bit of momentum can get the object in motion and can carry me all day. So a lot of times if I wake up and, and I'm having trouble getting motivated to chase down the goals that I've set for myself, or, if I've made a contract with myself that I'm going to go run, I'm going to go out in the Alabama heat and do some sprints this morning, as but I don't want to do it. I try to start trying to find any reason I can not to do that thing. Sometimes it's as easy as sweeping a floor, or organizing my desk, or cleaning my sink in my bathroom, or just something that tiny can send me on a road of momentum to all of a sudden I've had the most productive day I've had in a while. But it was on purpose. The animal wouldn't have had it that way. The animal would have crawled back in bed and tried to feel sorry for myself, or whatever the case may be, probably eating a ton of bad food and maybe soaked up some sugary content online, something that, might have been nice for the moment, but didn't nourish me for the long run, type of thing. And so I'm able to head that off at the pass and not have to suffer through a couple of days of that before I find some motivation again. I guess for anybody that is seemingly lost control of their life, that things have happened and they don't know why, maybe they're unsuccessful in their career, maybe they're unsuccessful in their love life, or whatever the case may be, and it's causing them pain, and they're looking for maybe a different way to view how things are happening. One thing that this will do is teach you how to recognize yourself in the mirror. We can recognize our appearance in the mirror, but we can't recognize ourselves in the metaphorical mirror. And the sense that the world gets of us is the way we make other people feel. You know, if I'm the greatest person in the world, but on paper, but I make the people around me feel like crap, then to that world, I'm a dickhead, you know. True. But that goes against my own self-identity, but the world sees me that way. And so it shortens the gap between who I know myself to be and who the world knows me to be, which, you know, allows people to set their expectations of me a lot more precisely. And so I disappoint far less people.
It's funny you say that. It reminded me of a story. One of the fire chiefs early in my career came around to the station, and he said, look, we're not the best fire department. We're not the only fire department. We're not FDNY. We're not here to do everything. He said, if we go out there every day and we tell the citizens, hey, we're here, we're the best fire department in the world, eventually they're going to believe it. And that fire department was just outside of Washington, D.C. It's Fairfax County, Virginia. If you know anything about the area, it's actually a very large department now. But the department was still very young at the time. And we bought into his belief, and we started watching it. And we watched it manifest. We watched it grow. We got more stations. We got more personnel, had more funding. We got more training. We got more toys. That was the most important part. The toys are the best part.
Definitely the fun part.
So, that's the inner cat in me. I'm playing with the ball. But but it really did. He set that in motion just by coming out there and giving that little talk. We may not be the best, but we're going to go out there every day and we're going to tell them the best, like a baseball player's coach. You know, I guess the same kind of thing. And he manifested it. And it's still growing to this day. That energy is in motion. And it's a beautiful thing, you know?
It absolutely is. You know, it's kind of a fake it till you make it type of navigation. The beautiful thing for me is, you know, your captain saying, we may not be the best, but to accurately be able to assess yourself and know where you're weak. And like you said, get more toys, get more stations, whatever the case may be. To know that I am consciously on my journey to the place that I intend to go is the thing that gives me the confidence to keep working towards the person that I'm trying to be, the human that I'm trying to be. I'll make mistakes. We all will make mistakes. There's too many moving parts in this world to navigate 100% precisely, but you can get real close. You can get real close. And the further you can narrow in your path to where you're trying to go, the more likely you are to be able to stay on it and not get blown off of your path by the winds of your environment into a place that you didn't intend to be and that you never dreamed you would go.
That's true. That's true.
So that accurate self-assessment, you know, nobody's perfect. Nobody's going to be perfect. But to be able to honestly and accurately assess where you're weak, you can work on strengthening your weaknesses. And the amount of confidence that comes from knowing that you're intentionally on that path is very palpable. It's not the empty affirmation kind, and you know, looking in the mirror and saying, I'm the greatest, I'm the best. And, you know, that language reminds me of something else, but the fact that I can know where I am on my journey and that I'm on my journey, that I'm going to make a mistake, but that mistake is only a mistake if I don't learn from it. If I learn from it, I've learned this is not the way to do this, you know, so that's valuable as well.
Absolutely.
And that's all I'm trying to share. Hey, there's a way to recognize yourself and to edit yourself and to truly become the person that you desire to be.
is there a great spiritual awakening in there as well?
Whether or not it's spiritual, I'm not sure. I think if it's not spiritual, it's akin to spirituality. I'm not real sure. That's a good question. I've never really thought about. I guess it's more of a conscious awakening, to be aware that I'm an animal operating in an environment, and that environment's going to have different rewards it presents. It's going to have different threats that it presents. I need to know which of these rewards are worth chasing. Are they by my design, or are they a distraction? And on the threat side, I need to know which of these are real threats and which of these are empty threats. You know what I'm saying? So it helps me to identify those types of things, which, like I said, helps me stay on the path of what I'm trying to do and where I'm trying to go and the human I'm trying to become.
Well, if it isn't spirituality, it's maybe a morality. Is that a better way of saying it? Maybe
morality is definitely a function of the human. The animal will kill for resources. It'll kill for mating privileges. It'll kill for a number of reasons. There are a handful of animals that pair bond for life, but that's the exception. It's most definitely not the rule. And so the animal knows very little, if at all, anymore morality. So morality is more of a function of empathy and abstract thinking. And those are definitely human tools.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, we wouldn't be a paranormal show.
Let's talk about some ghosts, man.
If I didn't ask you some questions, have you ever had any experiences in your life with Bigfoot, ghosts, anything?
With Bigfoot, no. I'm down here on the coast of Alabama, which is essentially the panhandle of Florida. We have a couple 100,000 acre cypress swamp here that I like to go play in. So I guess if I had to run in, it'd be more with a skunk ape than a Bigfoot,
sure,
than a Sasquatch. Yeah. I've heard some sounds in there that couldn't necessarily identify. I've seen some weird tracks in the mud that I couldn't necessarily identify before, but I have yet to have any biological sensory experience with a skunk ape or a Bigfoot. I've been all over the country now, and we get in the mountains sometimes. I've seen a wild moose from that tour bus window, but we're all on the hunt for Bigfoot when we're in the Pacific Northwest for sure. And none of us have come across it yet. But as far as ghosts go, man, I've only had one specific encounter myself, but I've been in some spaces where other people have had some. Have you ever heard of the Northport ghost?
No.
You said you were just over in Alabama before, right?
Yeah.
On an expedition there. Well, the Northport is a little town just north of Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Okay.
And I had some friends going to University of Alabama at the time, and I'd always heard about these Northport ghosts. And so I got them to take me to it at one point. But the story behind that is Civil War era, and a soldier leaves to fight for the Confederacy, and he told his wife and his young daughter, "You'll know I'm on the way back when you see my lantern over the hill." And so you drive down this long road, you weave back through there, and you turn your headlights off and just leave your parking lights on. And you top the hill, and there are two ghostly white figures standing there in the distance. And I've seen that with my own two eyes. Whether or not I didn't put any instruments on it to see if it was sure enough paranormal, but I did see those two ghostly white figures in the distance, just with the glow of the parking lamps there. What to make of that, I'm not real sure. It made the hair on the back of my neck stand up, and I remember crawling out the window and sitting on the windowsill trying to see as much as I could. But the other people in the car were screaming, "Let's go, let's go, let's go." So we got out of there pretty quickly. Yeah. And it made better sense for me to get back inside the car as it was about to speed off than it did to hang out the window. But
they would have probably left you.
Probably so. And that would have been one hell of a hike to get back. But here in South Alabama in Washington County, I have an uncle. He was my uncle by marriage. He's actually not technically my uncle anymore, but he's my uncle for life. You know those deals. His family has a big hunting space up in Washington County, Alabama, which is north of Mobile, south of Tuscaloosa, kind of in the middle of a just mainly rural part of Alabama. And their hunting camp was built in 1905. It's a 3-story plantation style home that's built in 1905. As the story goes, by the at the time the largest landowner in the state of Alabama. And a couple years into them owning that property there, apparently, like I said, as the story goes, I haven't verified any of this, but this is the story that I've heard my whole life. The man there fell in love with another woman and told his wife that he wanted a divorce. The wife wouldn't grant the divorce, and so he killed her.
Oh, nice.
So that he could marry the other woman. And he did marry the other woman. And on the night of their 1-year anniversary, a picture fell off the wall. One of those big old-timey picture frames, fell off the wall and hit the man in the head and killed him. But the trouble with that story is the picture frame that fell off the wall and killed him was hanging on the other side of the room.
What?
Right. So, once again, I wasn't there, but it's a fascinating story. And I've been there many, many times in my life. And you get that tingly feeling back here sometimes. I've never had an encounter myself. There's been others of my family that have heard, some disembodied footsteps and all these things. But I try as I might, man, I've never had an encounter myself.
Well, you might consider yourself lucky. So, and
I have a couple of friends. Let me tell you this real quick.
Common Soul said, I've seen something in the 60s. I'm not that old.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I have a couple of friends around that are paranormal investigators. And I tell them all the time, man, I want to go with you. I want to go with you because I'm fascinated by ghosts. I don't make any claims to whether they do or whether they don't exist, but I'm fascinated by the possibility that they do. And we live close to a lot of historical sites. In that cypress swamp, that delta that I was telling you about. So 5 rivers flow down the state of Alabama, flow into Mobile Bay that empties into the Gulf, and those 5 rivers make a substantial delta system that we are fortunate enough to get to play in here. And in that system, there's an island called Mound Island. And this island has 13 different Indian mounds on it, from the Creek Indian mounds from the 1100s to the 1600s is when they occupied the space. And man, I have gone to those. I've seen them as a kid. I've seen them as an adult, and it is a fascinating place, man. If you zen out hard enough, you can time travel. You know what I'm saying? So there's that place that I would love for, my investigator friends to go to. We're also very close to, so Dauphin Island is a kind of a barrier island off of the coast of Alabama there. So on Dauphin Island, there's really, oh, that's cool. Yeah. There's Fort Gaines there on the east side of the island, I think. And then on the Gulf Shore side of Mobile Bay is Fort Mims. No, Fort Mims is north of us. Fort Morgan, sorry. So you got Fort Gaines on one side, Fort Morgan on the other side. And, those were Civil War hotspots. There's a lot of Civil War relics in the area. I've had friends that have found cannonballs with their musket balls, belt buckles, all, you name it, they've found it with their metal detectors. Once upon a time here in southern Alabama. So I'm surrounded by it, man. I just, like I said, try as I might, I've never been able to capture one with my eyes or my ears or an instrument or anything. So
maybe one day.
One day.
You know what? Who knows? Maybe our inner animals are the ones that are actually trapped on this side, and us, if we're good people, or bad people, go somewhere else. We don't know. So yeah. Who knows?
That's a good point, man. Would it be the human or would it be the animal? Would it be the consciousness or would it be the being? I'm not sure. Deserves some thought, man.
It does. Is your book available on audio? You talked about audio.
Yeah, it's on Audible and it's on Amazon. I got it right here. Let me show you a picture of it. That's what the cover looks like.
I got to get the book. I'm sorry, I haven't got it yet. So
Fortunately, with my musical background, that was a good crossroads between developing an audio book and having quite a bit of recording experience. I had never tried to record dialogue before, but I'd recorded quite a bit of music at that point. And so to be clear,
you did read it?
I did read
it? Awesome.
Not only did I read it, but also engineered it. And I had a friend of mine actually do the mastering part of it for me. My friend Steven, who's my tech guru and one of my best friends in this entire world. And he was able to do the mastering part of it for me and help me do a few other things to get it released. I had a buddy of mine that's he's actually one of Larry's content photographers and also Morgan Wallen's content photographer. Matt Paskert helped me do a couple of the technical arranging things as I was getting ready to release it. So I owe a great deal of gratitude to those two guys for helping me remove an obstacle from the path. But it's been a labor of purpose for sure, man, because it was not an easy thing to do. I understand why people don't write books all the time, you know?
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, to me, it's hard to put together 2 or 3 paragraphs to come up with a show description sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
well, fortunately, man, I really did. I had something that I was trying to convey. And so that took care of part of that for me.
Good. Do you think you got any more books in you? I
think so. That part of being a kind of creative person is I can't shut that creative valve off. So I have a script that I intend to write at some point, I intend to write it. Whether or not I ever get it written is another story. But I have several chapters kind of outlined for a follow-up to this to kind of shine this light in some other particular areas. But it was important for me to get this one to take flight first before I walled myself off and started working on book number 2.
Yeah, I would think being an author would be lonely because you're trapped in an office just banging away on a keyboard. So
yeah, well, you've got to enjoy solitude. You've got to have a bit of an introvert in you. I spend my time in front of people and on stage and that sort of thing. And I enjoy that. I enjoy an extroverted life, but if I'm going to recharge my batteries, I have to do that by myself. And so you have to kind of revel in an amount of solitude that would break most people.
Yeah. Well, but you also do something that would break most people. You stand up in front of a large group of people and
fair point.
Perform.
Fair point. So, it seems like second nature to me at this point, but
exactly.
But once upon a time, it was significant for sure.
Oh, I'm sure that stage fright the very first time probably made you shaking in your boots. So.
Oh yeah, that's an amount of nervous that some people don't know exists.
And again, you play which instrument?
I'm a bona fide drummer. I majored in business finance from the University of South Alabama, but I minored in percussion performance.
Okay.
But I've really made a living playing more guitar and singing than I have anything else.
So you're multi-talented then.
Jack of all trades, master of none. It's basically what it boils down
to. Aren't we all? That's awesome. I would love to learn to play the drum. I would love to learn how to play the guitar. So, and I cannot imagine doing it in front of hundreds or thousands. I don't know. What's your largest crowd you performed in front of?
The largest one I've performed in front of was about 5,000 people. So with Larry's crew, I'm more on the management side. I'm not actually I get up and sing with them occasionally on a rare occasion. But for the most part, I'm in the shadows, doing my best to make sure everything goes smoothly.
Ah, gotcha. Well, that's still though, you have the
I do walk out and hand him a tuned guitar every now and then. And so I technically get on stage in front of, I guess our largest crowd has been roughly 20,000 people.
Holy cow.
So I've been on stage in front of 20,000 people. I just didn't perform any music in front of 20,000. But
well, hey, with my podcast, you've had 20. So, hey.
Well, that's 20 more than I had before. So,
well, I want to thank you for coming on.
No, man. The pleasure's mine, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I need it. We'll hook up after the show somewhere, and I need to get a copy of it. I'd like an autographed copy from you. So
Yeah, man, I'll do my best to make that happen.
That would make it more personal for me, and that to me is intent. But aside from me, where can everybody else get your book and your Audible?
All you have to do is search for Tracking Our Inner Animal on Audible or Amazon. It should pop right up. I do have I'm building a human animal theory Instagram page that they're welcome to come join there. I'm going to build that page and hopefully build that community so we can talk more in depth about this idea of the human and the animal. My personal Instagram page is the Honky Tonk Alternative. I got that name in Nashville, Tennessee. So we can connect there. Human Animal Theory is the other Instagram page that I've just started building. Hopefully we'll finish building that out or get the platform down in the near future. Eventually there's going to be a YouTube channel as well. It's just managing all these moving parts right now is a bit much. And so hope that's in the works for the future. And I'm on Facebook, Leslee Hall. You can find that really easy. That's 2 E's, by the way. That's what makes it easy to find, though. So the Facebook, Instagram, Audible, and Amazon, and coming to a town near you at some point in the near future.
That's great. Yeah, you mentioned Morgan Wallen. He's actually from a small town in Tennessee that I'm very familiar with. That's home. So
yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate. I have the sense that you are going to go far and do great things. So yeah,
well, I hope so, brother. I hope
he
so.
actually came and performed for Guyz High School.
Oh, sweet.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well,
we're doing a European leg in the fall with Morgan.
Oh, that's amazing. That's great.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. I get to see some places in the world that I haven't seen yet. So.
Oh, wow. Best of luck. Hopefully you'll come back on the show when you get a chance.
Anytime, man. We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
All right, brother. Well, I
Thanks
appreciate
for having
your
me,
time.
man.
Hey, the pleasure is all mine. I will talk to you soon, Leslee. Thanks again.
All right. Thanks, man. Good to see you, Glenn.
All right, brother. All right.
Bye-bye.
See you, man. All right. Well, there it is. It's like an old timey thing. I actually did the whole show by myself. I feel all alone. And we made it through. Thanks to all of my fans. I want to thank you. Please remember to like, follow, subscribe, thumbs up. If you found me on Spotify, come over to YouTube, look for the Sportcat shows. And of course, you can always hear us on yergsradio.com on replay. And you can also catch me spinning some records on the Thin Line Rock Station Tuesdays and Thursdays, noon until 4, and then 6 until midnight. No, 11 on Friday nights. I'm doing the Flashback Fridays. So I'm doing some oldies, some 80s, and some, they say oldies is 90s. I don't consider that oldies, but we're having a good time over there. So join me at the Thin Line Rock Station. Also, I have other shows on YouTube. Friday night, we're reviewing Police Week. It was just National Police Week, so we have 2 people coming on the show to talk about that. And I'm not quite sure what the ladies have lined up for the weekend for Misfits. So stay tuned for that. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. As always, I appreciate everything you do for us. Please, like I said, remember to thumbs up, like, follow, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and tell your friends about us. And if you're interested in coming on the show, drop me a note, sportcat@protonmail.com. I would love to have you on. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
You have a 138 at